So what are some of the key problems you see with invoice financing structures?
Thanks. I think invoice financing has quite a few problems, and we often see fraud happening in invoice financing. This happens when you've got, number one, fake invoices, number two, round-tripping exercises, number three, duplicate invoicing, meaning double, triple financing, and number four, your classic over and under invoicing. I'm going to talk about the first two today. Fake invoices. Fake invoices can happen because two companies decide to collude together to create an invoice where there's no underlying goods or services. The second might be where there is impersonation, and that's a real problem now. Impersonation meaning that one of the parties has been impersonated. A famous party, could be a well-known company, has been impersonated. And when there's impersonation, then the invoice isn't a valid invoice. When we do fraud cases, when we chase after that party, it's not uncommon sometimes for that party to come back and say, I never did this trade. I don't know who this counterpart is. This invoice is not legit.
Right.
I also want to talk about round-tripping exercises. So round-tripping would be where you and I and a third person, for example, we sell goods to each other and it comes back to me. That might be somewhat problematic in invoice financing. I'll tell you why. Because let's say I want to create liquidity. I create a trade around us for three of us, and we issue invoices between each other. But I tell you, don't worry, you don't need to pay me. You only need to pay me when you get paid by person number three. And so that's just me controlling a carousel of money that goes between us. I think that's problematic because what if there are no goods? What if there's no services between us? We've just created a fiction of a trade, and I've done it to raise financing.
Where do you see key vulnerabilities in an invoice financing structure?
The biggest challenge with invoice financing is that people are using it as a liquidity tool. So the nature of invoice financing, I think, if you want to get access to quick working capital needs, then yes, you have an invoice, you discount that invoice and you get $90 today of the $100, and the financer gets to collect the $100 1 month, 3 months later. So it gives you access to quick financing, but I think that incentive or the seduction of actually then using it to get more and more financing to cover your losses or to boost your revenue without there being an underlying trade. I think that's where the risk is. So there's over leverage. When we do these trade fraud cases, sometimes the trader has got multiple of these sort of frauds going on at the same time, and all it takes, multiple plates spinning at the same time. And so all it takes is for one plate to drop and the whole house of cards drops, and that's why you see catastrophic losses in trade fraud. It's not just one, it's too finely leveraged, I think. Second point would be, so you got the trader as a baseline, giving the invoice. He might be tempted to do fraud, to concoct invoices up so that he can get access to money. The second layer, and now a more problematic layer, is the fintech company who's doing the invoice financing. What if they decide, well, we're in the business of raising revenue. We're in the business of top-line revenue. We need to show to our investors each year, each quarter, we are increasing our revenue. So this might lead to them being lax on traders who come to them saying, I've got invoices. They just want to get the numbers up. Or, in the drastic case, they might actually make up fake invoices themselves, which is horrendous. Investors, I think, the structure of an invoice financing program, it's based on volume. So I think that's problem number one as it is already. When you have volume, how do you detect one fraud out of 1,000? But then another structural problem is the use of credit insurance. So you wrap up the entire portfolio with credit insurance, but there's a misunderstanding, if not, I would say misuse of credit insurance, in the sense that people wrap up that credit insurance and then they think, okay, I don't need to do my due diligence. Mr. Credit Insurer over here is going to be doing the due diligence. And that's not really the role of credit insurance and not what the job of the underwriter is in the first place. So you might have a situation where you think you've got cover and it's not covered.
Okay, thanks for that explanation. Now, just taking a step back and looking at the bigger picture, why do you think international trade is so susceptible to fraud?
I can answer that quite briefly. I think it's the risk-reward paradigm. The risk of getting caught is actually quite low. Traders, fraudsters, they imitate the trade. So they put together fake documents that mimic an actual trade flow. And so the risk of detection is quite low. If I do a circular trade, for example, and it's all within a closed loop of my friends, no one is going to know that this is a fiction. It's just between us. while the actual trade is going on between the actual parties. We've created a fiction over here. That's the risk part. And then you've got the reward part. The reward part is massive. One invoice, you get to raise $3, $4, $5 million. So yes, I think the risk reward is actually, it's tilted the wrong way.